Okay, I'm sorry if the hat puts anybody off, but you got to celebrate those World Series victories when you get them. Hey, we're going to talk about just a kind of a smattering of things in this video. First one is instrument cluster messages, and by that I mean the center gauge of the 5 classic Porsche gauges is your tachometer, of course. Down in the lower thirds, at least in a 997 Gen 1, you have some messages there. It's a pretty basic display. It's not a high-res thing, and it's pretty much black and white. But the other day, I got a message that looks like this. And it talked about my engine compartment blower fan having a failure. I've got that a couple times. The first time I got it about a month ago, I went straight to my mechanic, like a little panicked, oh no, what's going on? He just walked around to the back of the car, determined that the engine compartment fan blower was still running, and he said, don't worry about it for right now. And it didn't happen again until, oh gosh, last week. And once again, I checked my engine compartment fan and it seemed to be blowing fine. So I think it's some kind of a sensor issue. By the way, you don't have to drive around with that message on there the entire trip. You've got your blinker stock. I don't know what you call it, those sticks that stick out from your center column of your steering wheel. So you've got your blinker stock. I don't know where I came up with the word stock. I don't know if it's right or wrong. Someone can tell me. Then the one below that, that's the one that controls the different settings in your instrument cluster. So you can dismiss it. And then what I found out happened is I can dismiss that message because I don't want it glaring at me for the entire journey. But then it puts a little red exclamation mark in your tachometer. And what was interesting, also in your water temperature level, little meter, it turns on the red light. Even though the water temperature was straight up, it was not a problem. It was not over to the right, indicating an overheating of the cooling system. That little red light went on. So that's number one. If you dismiss it, it's going to warn you that, hey, I have a message, and it puts that exclamation mark. And if you want to recall that message, you can, and I'll go through the steps on how to do that. Now, my message just cleared itself, so I found it interesting. It came up, warned me, but then it just went away. Since then, I've been doing a little investigating, trying to figure out what that engine compartment blower fan is for, and I'm sure you guys can tell me. But if you don't know already, I think it's got something to do with, like, when your car is running, if the engine compartment temperature is a certain temperature, and your cooling system is a certain temperature, it's going to kick on. When your car is off, I think it said something like if the temperature is over 140 Fahrenheit, that will go on as well. I'll show you another video here just indicating how, what it sounds like, of course, when the car is off and it's on. If you do open the compartment, the engine compartment lid, that fan does go off automatically. I'll show you here how the lid is open, then you close it, and then the fan will kick on. So I had also been noticing that the fan was on a lot. Like, I would come back to the house, put the car in the garage, and I would come back 20 minutes later and the fan was still on. So my hunch, reading some other Rentec, I think it's called, forums and stuff, that maybe I have a sensor going bad, and here's a diagram that shows where exactly that sensor is. So that's number one. Number two, I wanted to call out a thank you to somebody. The other day I was showing a YouTube video and somebody pointed out, his name's Banesh, I'll put up an image here of his comment. He said, hey, check your left front tire pressure. I thought it was amazing. At the time I thought, okay, I don't know. Does he really know what he's talking about? And sure enough, back to the instrument cluster, I check the tire pressure monitoring system, and that left front tire was 10 PSI, pounds per square inch, lower than all the other tires. So that was just a fantastic thing for some really savvy YouTube watcher to point out. Thank you. I typically think I can spot a tire when it's low, but I did not notice that. So thanks for that. So I pumped it up. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there as a miscellaneous item too. If you had to fill up your car tires with air, how would you do it? So here's how I would do it. All right, so a couple options. You can go to your local gas station, which I totally get it. You just go there, pump up with air. But where I go, you have to pay like 25 or 50 cents or kind of bug the guy or girl to turn on the compressor. And it's kind of a pain. You're out there trying to fill up your tires and check the pressure, and then it runs out, and you're on your knees practically in the dirty gas station parking lot. So you can use an air compressor. If you're a carpenter, you have air tools or something, of course, you can get a big air compressor. But here is a pretty inexpensive item. I'm not sponsored by these guys, but I do love Ryobi. They make a lot of inexpensive, I think, relatively high quality tools. And this was about, that's what it sounds like when you turn it on. This was about $25 for this, not a lot, Home Depot. Now you need the battery, which would be more, but if you already have Ryobi tools, but a good investment. And there it is. It's got a little digital tire pressure monitor, and you just clip this on and pump it up to the desired PSI. I think I put like 42s in these. Someone also said put a little like rubber band around this because sometimes you just want to leave it for a few minutes and not have to hold it. Just a really easy way to fill up your tires, just FYI. Okay, so here's your instrument cluster, of course, your tachometer. This would be the normal display. You see the bottom two lines. That's what I have mine set to, which is the top one. Well, of course, miles per hour. You can't really change that one. The second one down is your range, how many miles left. And the other one is miles per gallon. So if you want to do something else, then you'd press this second item here, the second control, not your blinker, okay? And what you're gonna do is, of course, just push that away from you. I always forget whether it's pull or push. But as you can see, I push it, and this is where you go to info. So if I had a message that I had missed, and that's indicated by this little exclamation mark, you're gonna see it in your info. So that's good information, hopefully. Also, let's look at a couple other things here. Let's go down to our TPC. This is where I went. Thank you, Banash, for pointing out my low tire pressure in my left front tire. You go to TPC, tire pressure monitoring. So what is C? Control, tire pressure control. Press forward, and then this is gonna, depending, that looks like a really odd display. Normally it tells you like 42, 42. It just says +4. I don't even know what that means. It's the first time I've seen it displayed like that. So that is really interesting. I'm gonna find out. Normally it tells you the exact tire pressure, and it can't do this while you're driving. It wants you to be sitting still. So now my hunch is it's telling me I'm +4 in my front two, and I'm -2 and -5 on the back, on the rear ones accordingly. Now, how does it know that? Well, I did recently change the information. If I go, let me back out. Let me go to info tires. So I pulled the function stock back. I'm gonna go down to info tires, and it says I have summer tires 19-inch, which is correct. Well, how did I set that? If I go to, let's skip load, let's go to set. I'm gonna go to set, and this is where you pick summer or winter tires. I live in Los Angeles. I'll probably never have winter tires, but kudos to Jay Reed back east in Connecticut, I think, who did a great YouTube video on winter tires and his Porsche 996 and going up his steep driveway. So I'm just leaving it at summer tires. So hit continue, and then the 18 or the 19. And this is a Carrera S, and I think stock comes with 19-inch tires. Of course, you can check that, but boom, hit 19-inch and hit continue. So process complete. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of learning with you here, and then it's going to tell you that it's inactive. It's learning. It kind of goes through this startup learning process. But I found it really interesting just now that it was, instead of giving me an exact PSI, it was telling me plus or minus where I was. So that's kind of interesting. One other thing here is load. If you go down to load and hit forward, partial load versus full load. Now, typically it's just me or my wife, but we occasionally do go out for some filtered water, and I'll show you a picture of that. You can fit quite a few gallons of water in the front trunk, so maybe you switch it to full load for that. But, obviously partial load's going to be fine. So I think maybe based on these settings, the partial or full load, let me go back, and the type of tires you have, summer or winter, and then the diameter. Maybe that's how it's coming up with this. See, now I'm confused because now it's telling me an exact PSI. So this video has been no help whatsoever. I am sorry about that. But sometimes it's showing a plus minus, and sometimes it's showing the actual PSI. And the REQ, I'm going to have to read up on that one. That might be, I took that to be like it's still registering, but I could be wrong. Okay, one last thing I wanted to point out here is the auto dimming rear view mirror. So this one comes with the auto dimming, which you can tell it says auto. And if you turn this on, this button on or off, underneath here, if you press that, it goes to non-auto dimming. And of course, if you press it back on, you get the green light and it's on auto dimming. Okay, I'm showing my credit card there in the picture. There's a little sensor here, of course, that's telling you it's gonna detect lights, like if there's headlights in the back. And I think if this is like other typical ones, there's a little sensor on the back. Let me show you. You don't need to see a picture of that, but there is a sensor on the front, which I think is your ambient light. So it determines, is it daytime or nighttime with the one that's facing the front. And then the back sensor here is determining whether, you're driving and there's like bright headlights in the background. Well, what I found really interesting with this, at least it was interesting for me. So the thing I found fascinating about that was that I noticed my left and right rear view mirrors were also dimming. And I'd never seen that before. And so obviously the center mirror is connected with the left and right mirrors. And when you have that on, it actually darkens the majority of the mirror so that you can see better at night when there's bright lights shining. So I was curious, I looked that up, and here's a link to, I will put a link down below, but here's an image from a YouTube video I found. And there's a lot of electronics going in there. It's pretty fascinating. I thought it was something physical that was like maybe moving the mirror, and it was polarized, so it was cutting the glare. But it's like an ionic, there's some layers between the front glass of your mirror and the actual mirror that will, depending on if it's triggered by these light sensors, will change those in between ionic layers. I'm not quite sure. And it'll make it harder for light to get through, hence give you a darker mirror, which is going to make it easier to see at night with bright lights. So just something I found interesting. Check out the link if you're interested. Okay, so I broke down, I gave in, I completely caved into reading the owner's manual. Page 109. For year 2007, it said the tire pressure monitoring offers the following functions. Display of the actual tire pressure while the vehicle is in motion. I have not found that to be the case. I felt like it told me that it couldn't, but according to the manual, it can. Now, this is what we saw earlier. Second bullet, display of the deviation from the required pressure, parenthetically, refilling pressure. Suffice it to say, 2007 has a tire pressure monitoring system. I don't know if the earlier 997 Gen 1s had it, 2005, 2006. I think I read somewhere that it was a option added maybe in 2006, or maybe it's just an option period. So that's it. I want to leave you with one thing. I was having coffee with my daughter the other day in Echo Park, Los Angeles, and I ran across this great looking 996 in a very interesting color. So this is the mystery photo. Does anybody know if this was a stock color for Porsche 996, and it's a Gen 2? It's got the different headlights. So that would mean it's probably a 2002, 2003, or year 2004. But I love this color. I don't know what it is. It's like a orangey pink, and with the dark tinted windows, I just think it looks fantastic. Anyway, that's it. Talk to you guys soon.